During the last 2 weeks or so, our movement has crossed a major milestone. Our youth have returned to cabins and dining halls. Our campgrounds, which sat empty for so many months, are now bursting with life. As I was scrolling Facebook this week, I couldn't help but look through Asrui's photos from opening day and the first few days of camp. Asrui, for those of you who don't know, is a reform camp in Wisconsin, and it's the place where a few of our own children our temple kids will call home this summer. And it's a special place for a few in the community as well, including myself. And in these pictures, I saw everything one would expect to see from a new summer at camp. Pictures of smiling friends reunited, happy staff, excited rabbis eager to teach Judaism and make Judaism come alive. The pictures really filled my soul in a way that's hard to describe. It was hard not having summer camps last summer, and I wasn't even planning on going to camp. Anyway, the thing that caught my eye was that a few of the children in all of the pictures wore masks. Now, I don't know all of the intricacies of the rules and policies in place to keep children and staff safe at camp this summer, but I do have full confidence that everyone at all of our URJ camps are doing everything within their power to keep everyone as safe as possible. I just can't imagine what some parents and even campers are feeling now and were feeling a few weeks ago. I remember many late nights at camp with children, staying up with children who couldn't sleep. Some of them, of course, wanted to stay up as late as possible just for the fun of it. But for some, being away from home was a scary experience for the first few times. This summer, with the added pressure of a contagious virus, I'm sure there are more than a few parents and campers that were a bit apprehensive about attending camp this summer. We read a story this week in Torah of a king who himself is apprehensive. This week we're in Parshat Balak, which is named for a man who is also struggling with fear. King Balak of Moab witnessed the Israelite army overtake other regional kings and cause mass destruction. Our weekly reading opens with his response to these events. It says, Vayar Balak, and Balak saw all that Israel had done. And the next thing that we learn about him, Vayagar Moab, and the people of Moab were scared. All of the people of Moab were afraid, including the king. Balak was afraid because of the Israelites. Balak was not afraid because a royal advisor or ancient intelligence officer recounted the events of the war to him. No, Balak was afraid, and all of Moab was afraid, because they saw with their own eyes what Israel had done. They watched the power of the Israelites with their own eyes, and because of that firsthand account, Vayagar, they all were scared. Over the course of this narrative, these two verbs, seeing and being afraid, work together to drive the action. Fear is the constant impetus for how King Balak reacts. He sends advisors to summon Balaam, the royal prophet, to the throne of the king. And there, Balak details Balaam's task. Balaam is instructed to curse the people of Israel. And as this action plays out, everything hinges on the characters seeing firsthand what is going on before they react. A few examples. Balaam, on his journey to meet Balak, sees a divine angel in front of him. Balaam's donkey also sees this angel, not once but twice. The second time, the donkey witnesses this miraculous sight, and she lays down in her tracks. The donkey then speaks, which is a whole other interesting part of the story, which we can save for another drash, another Shabbat evening. Several times, Balaam says that he can only do what God shows him, what God puts forth in front of his very eyes. Eventually, Balak and Balaam see each other face to face when they meet. Together, they both open up their eyes and look upon the people of Israel. Also, God opens up his eyes and sees the people of Israel, just to name a few examples. The characters in our parashah do so much looking and seeing in this story. But if we think back to the beginning of the story, they are overcome by such powerful emotions. Because of this, it takes significantly more effort for them to understand what is going on around them. The Or HaChaim, a commentary on the Torah, says Balak's actions this week don't necessarily come from a place of hate towards Israel. Rather, Balak was fearful for himself and his people, the people he was tasked with protecting. Balak's desire to curse Israel came from a place of self-preservation. In the end, God put a blessing in Balaam's mouth instead of a curse. Words of praise were offered when fear prompted anger. Not just one blessing, but multiple blessings are offered in this week's Torah portion. And the most important, the most beautiful of these blessings, we still recite every morning. The words, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov. How lovely are your tents, house of Jacob. Sometimes fear and anger can blind us to reality. Fear is a truly powerful experience, but it is a reality of life. We all have been scared at points, and we all will have moments or experiences ahead of us in life that will make us feel afraid. When we are so attached to fear at a particular moment, it is harder for us to see the situation for what it is. Balaam offered more than one blessing as a reminder that sometimes it's hard to see the world around us. It takes us a few tries to understand, to recognize the blessing that's underneath it all. So I'm not completely sure this Shabbat which one is teaching me more. If it's Balaam's blessings in the face of Balak's fear, or if it's the inspiring stories of URJ summer camps, cautiously finding community and safety when I'm sure they were nervous. But Torah acknowledges us and holds each of us this Shabbat evening. I invite each of you, the next time you feel fear, give yourself a moment to see everything around you. Look twice if you have to, because there is blessing somewhere just waiting to be seen. Shabbat Shalom.